I'll never forget the way Kyle walked into my housewarming like he owned the damn place. No six-pack, no side dish, not even a congrats. Just strolled into my backyard, nodded, and headed straight for the burgers. My name's Rick. I'm 58 now, but this all started when I was 49, just outside Joliet. I'd just closed on my first house, a small fixer-upper in a neighborhood where everyone mowed their own lawns and patched their own fences. Nothing fancy, but it was mine. I'd been through a divorce, lived out of rentals for years, and busted my ass doing construction since I was 19. I skipped vacations, drove beaters, worked Saturdays just to squirrel away enough for a down payment. And finally, I'd done it. Kyle, my little brother, 3 years younger, never lifted a finger unless someone spotted him first. Our folks handed him everything growing up. Car when he turned 16, free ride through college, rent paid when he got screwed over by his last 3 landlords. And don't even get me started on the tuition they covered after he changed majors twice. Meanwhile, I was out on job sites hauling drywall at 21, trying to keep the lights on. He floated from one gig to the next. Gym manager, weed shop clerk, delivery driver, always with a story. The manager hated me. The hours were sketchy. They lied in the interview. It was never his fault. So when I invited the family over for a backyard BBQ to celebrate my new place, I wasn't expecting help from Kyle, but I figured he could at least show a little respect. Nope. He hung around for maybe an hour, mostly scrolling his phone, half listening to my buddies talk about siding prices and sump pumps. Then, just as he was walking out, he turned to me and said, "Hey, this place is perfect. Mind if I throw my birthday party here next weekend?" I blinked. "Seriously?" "Yeah, it's got a great setup for people. Fire pit, yard space. I'd clean up after." "No, man," I said. "I just got this place. I'm not turning it into a bar." He raised an eyebrow. "Wow, uptight much?" Then he left. Didn't even say bye to our parents. No text, no call. Ghosted me for weeks. Quick note, before we go further, tell us which city or country you're watching from. At first, I thought maybe he was just embarrassed or whatever. But knowing Kyle, I should have known better. That wasn't the end of it. Not even close. A couple of years into the house, everything started falling apart, all at once. First it was the water heater. Then I found a soft spot on the roof near the chimney, and sure enough, it needed patching. Just when I thought I was back on solid ground, the sewer line backed up and flooded the laundry room. I came home to the smell of mildew and standing water on the tile. I remember just standing there, boots still on, staring at the mess. My first thought was, I can't afford this. Work had slowed down too. I was still doing construction, but contracts were thinner, and my knees were giving out faster than I wanted to admit. I took on some small side gigs, deck repair, drywall patches, but it wasn't enough to cover surprise expenses. I finally booked a meeting with a financial advisor. Not my style, but I was out of ideas. She looked like she could be my daughter's age, tapping away on her laptop while I laid everything out. Mortgage, repairs, taxes, utilities. She nodded a lot. Then she said it. House poor. "You've got equity," she told me, "but no cushion, no savings, no flexibility. You're trapped by the house." She wasn't wrong. I hadn't taken a vacation since my 40s. Every paycheck went to the place. Groceries felt like a luxury. My idea of a splurge was switching from store-brand coffee to Folgers. Then she hit me with something that stuck. "The market's hot right now. You could sell and walk away with enough to reset." I didn't answer right away. It felt like quitting. Like I was waving the white flag after all the sweat I'd poured into the place. But she was patient, showed me comps, ran the numbers. Even after the repairs, I'd come out well ahead. I went home and sat at my kitchen table staring at a loose cabinet hinge. I'd spent 2 years patching everything myself just to keep it livable. But the reality was, I'd built myself a prison I could barely afford to heat. So I called a realtor the next day. The listing went live on a Friday. We had offers by Sunday. The first serious buyer came in 5% over asking. Clean offer, no drama, and they were fine letting me rent back for a month. Just like that, I was free. I didn't tell anyone. Not my parents, not Kyle, not even my buddies at work. I wanted it clean, quiet, no input, no guilt, no emotional sabotage. I started sorting through junk, old tools, worn-out furniture, stuff I swore I'd fix one day. I boxed up photos, packed the garage, cleared the attic. Nights were quiet, just me and the sound of tape ripping off the roll. One evening I sat on the back steps drinking a beer, looking out at the yard. The patch of grass I'd spent 3 weekends reseeding had finally started to take figures. I wasn't sad, not exactly, just tired. I was tired of pretending this house was some symbol of success when it was bleeding me dry. When the inspection cleared and the closing date got set, I signed the papers with a pen that barely worked. The realtor smiled. "Congratulations." I just nodded. Didn't feel like a win, not yet. Back home, I started the countdown. 30 days, and I was out. I had no idea what was coming next. Not from Kyle, not from my parents. But I knew one thing for damn sure. I wasn't backing down. Couple days after the closing, my phone started blowing up. Not from the realtor, not from the buyers. From my folks. First call was my mom, middle of a Tuesday. "Just thinking about you," she said. "You've been quiet lately. We should all stick together more. Family's important, you know?" That was weird on its own. My mom doesn't do surprise check-ins unless someone's in the hospital. Then my dad called 2 nights later. Same tone. "How's the house? You keeping up okay? Kyle mentioned you've been busy, maybe too busy." I waited. No one said anything specific, just vague speeches about leaning on each other, not shutting people out. I could smell the setup a mile away. Then Kyle started texting. "Yo, what's the Wi-Fi speed at your place again? Which room gets the most morning light? How much are you paying in utilities these days?" That one got me. I texted back, "Why are you asking?" He replied with just a smiley face. The next day he asked if a king-size bed would fit in the back room, my tool room, the only space I had that wasn't a bedroom. I stared at my phone like it had grown horns. "Why?" I sent back. No answer for 2 hours. Then finally, "Just thinking ahead." I almost called him right then, but something told me to wait. Something stank, and I wasn't going to step into it blind. Sunday dinner rolled around like it always did. Pot roast, mashed potatoes, same table we grew up eating at. I didn't say a word about the house. The final paperwork wasn't done yet, and I wasn't ready to drop that bomb. But when I walked in, I knew something was off. Mom had the good china out, napkins folded, candles lit. Dad was in slacks. Kyle showed up wearing a button-down shirt like he was heading to court. Nobody dresses up for pot roast. We sat down, and they went right into it. "You know," my mom said, spooning carrots onto my plate. "Your house must get awful quiet," Dad chimed in. "It's a big place for one person. Seems like a waste, honestly." Then my mom again, "A good man shouldn't live alone. It's not healthy." I didn't say a word, just kept chewing. Kyle leaned forward. "So I've been thinking, my lease is up, place is garbage, mold, noisy neighbors. Figured it might be a good time for a reset." He smiled like he was doing me a favor. "I could take the back room, chip in for bills, wouldn't be forever." I dropped my fork, looked at all 3 of them. "Why didn't anyone ask me?" "We figured we'd talk it through tonight," Dad said. "As a family." Talk it through, my ass. This wasn't a conversation, it was an ambush. I leaned back in my chair and crossed my arms. I still hadn't told them the house was sold, but in that moment, I knew one thing for sure. They were plotting something behind my back, and they thought I'd just roll over. They had their plan, but I had mine. I didn't even make it through the front door before I smelled something different. Not just food. Polish sausage, roasted potatoes, asparagus instead of green beans. My mom never made asparagus. Then I saw the china. Not the Sunday plates, the special stuff from the hutch. The stuff that only came out for birthdays or anniversaries. Dad had a bottle of champagne chilling in a bucket, like we were celebrating a promotion. Kyle sat on the couch in a blue button-down and khakis, hair combed, shoes actually shined. I almost laughed. He looked like someone pretending to be responsible. Nobody said anything for the first minute, just fake smiles and small talk. We sat down at the table, and Mom started dishing out the food. "You've done so much on your own," she said. "It must feel overwhelming sometimes." Dad nodded. "All that house, all by yourself, gets quiet, doesn't it?" Kyle cut in. "Probably feels a little empty too." I chewed slowly and kept my mouth shut. I already knew where this was headed. Mom patted my hand. "A good man shouldn't live alone." "Kyle needs a chance," Dad added. "He's had a rough stretch, but he's turning things around." Kyle stood up, reached for the champagne, and popped it like this was New Year's Eve. The cork bounced off the ceiling. He raised his glass. So, here's to new chapters. I'm moving into Rick's place next Saturday. He smiled, not sheepishly, proud, like he just got a key to the city. They all looked at me, waiting for a thank you, maybe even a toast. I sat there quiet for a second, reached down beside my chair, and pulled out the manila envelope I'd brought on purpose, dropped it on the table like a dead fish. Sold the house last week, I said. Closing already happened. The room froze. Kyle's face turned ghost white. His mouth hung open like a fish gasping for air. Dad's jaw locked tight, hands clenched under the table. Mom's hand flew to her chest. You what? I sold it, I said. I'm renting back for a couple more weeks, then I'm out. Done. It was sinking me. You did this to spite me, Kyle snapped. You knew I was planning to move in. No, you were plotting with them behind my back. You never asked, you just assumed. Mom started crying, soft at first, then harder. Rick, you didn't even tell us. You never asked me anything. You just tell me how I should fix everyone else's mess. Dad leaned in, voice sharp. You could have talked to us. Like how you talked to me before deciding Kyle would move into my house. I shoved my plate forward. For once, I did what was right for me. Kyle kicked back from the table. Unbelievable. You're a selfish old bastard. I stood up. No, I've been the responsible one for 40 years, while you bounced from job to job and got bailed out every damn time. Cars, rent, tuition. I didn't get a dime, but I still made it work. You don't know what it's like to struggle, Kyle barked. The hell I don't. I just didn't expect a parade every time I paid my bills on time. Mom sobbed harder. Please stop. Dad stayed silent now, arms crossed, staring at the table like he'd just lost a chess match. Kyle grabbed his coat off the back of the chair. You'll regret this. I didn't flinch. Already regretted keeping my mouth shut this long. He stormed out, slammed the door so hard the cabinet rattled. Mom buried her face in a napkin. I turned to Dad. Don't call me selfish again. You had 2 sons. Only one of us ever had to figure shit out on his own. He didn't look up, just nodded once. Like maybe, deep down, he knew I was right. I picked up the envelope and walked out without saying another word. By the time I pulled into my driveway that night, I already had 3 missed calls and a voicemail from my mom. The next morning, it was 6 more texts. We were just trying to help Kyle. He needs family right now. You blindsided us. I didn't respond. Kyle started blowing up my phone next. Not even to talk to me, just to talk about me. He told people he was already planning to move in, like it was a done deal. Now he looked like a fool, and he was pissed. One of our cousins messaged me on Facebook. I thought Kyle was living with you. That's what he said. Then my mom dropped the real kicker. Maybe you could get a bigger place after this one, something with space for both of you. I laughed out loud when I read it. Like I'd sell my house, go through all this hell, and upgrade just so Kyle could play roommate in a second property. Then my dad called, quiet tone, like he was talking someone off a ledge. Your mother's upset. Kyle's a mess. Maybe you don't need to move right away. You could stay in town a bit. Maybe rent Kyle a place short term, just until he's on his feet. Let him figure it out, I said. He's your brother. And I'm not his damn sponsor. Then came the cherry on top. My Uncle Ron. Hadn't spoken to him in over a year. Hey Rick, I don't want to get in the middle, but he's family. Maybe just let him crash for a few weeks. Wouldn't kill you. I hung up before he finished the sentence. I found a 1-bedroom downtown. Solid brick building, 2nd floor, no yard, no maintenance. It wasn't fancy, but it was mine. And best of all, no room for guests. I packed everything myself. Took 2 weeks, a couple of late nights, and 100 trips to the dumpster. Half the stuff I owned didn't even make the cut. I didn't ask anyone to help. Didn't want to hear another speech about Kyle. Didn't want to see my mom cry or watch my dad pretend he was neutral while still defending his poor, struggling son. Movers came on a Saturday. I met them in the morning, loaded the truck, followed it into the city, and unlocked my new place by 2 p.m. Felt clean. Quiet. I was halfway through breaking down boxes when I heard a knock. I didn't even have to look. Kyle was standing on the curb, arms crossed like he'd been waiting hours. I walked out and met him at the sidewalk. You weren't invited, I said. He shrugged. Mom said I should talk to you. She's worried about us. Us? I raised an eyebrow. There is no us. I wanted to apologize, he said, but his tone was off. too rehearsed. This whole thing got out of hand. Because you lied to people about moving in? I didn't lie, he snapped. I was told it was happening. You told yourself that. Nobody else agreed. He sighed. Look, I know you're mad. I just figured maybe there's still a way to work something out. There's not. Maybe just a short loan, he pushed. I'm applying for places, but deposits are brutal right now. I'd pay you back. For real this time. I stepped closer. You've said that before. Every time. He scoffed. You act like you've got it so hard. No kids, steady job. You don't even know what real stress is. I leaned in. I earned every inch of stability I've got. You think I had it easy? I skipped everything. Vacations, holidays, upgrades, to buy a roof that nearly broke me. You just expected to move in and live off that? He clenched his jaw, looked away, then muttered, Whatever, man. He turned, walked to his car, and peeled off down the block. I locked the door behind me and went back to unpacking. This time, I didn't feel guilty. Not even a little. I got home late that night from a drywall job across town. Side work, under the table. I was tired, hungry, and ready to throw myself onto the couch when I saw Kyle's car parked right out front. He was leaning against the hood like he was waiting for a date. I parked in the alley and came around the side, keys in hand. He didn't move. Been out here long? I asked. He smirked. Couple hours? Figured you'd show up eventually? Should have figured you'd still be pushing this. He stepped forward like nothing was wrong. Mom and Dad said I should apologize, so here I am. I waited. I'm sorry things got heated, he said. I just felt blindsided. We all did. Because I didn't let you hijack my house? He ignored that. Look, I'm trying here. Maybe we can work something out. Short term. A few months, I move in, help out, split the bills. You'd barely notice I'm there. You serious? As a heart attack. I even got a job lead lined up. I'm making moves, man. I just need a little space to land. I shook my head. No. He blinked. Wait, what? No, not happening. He laughed like I was joking. Come on, just like... Alone then. I'll get my own place, I swear. You know I'll pay you back. You've said that every time you've borrowed from me since high school. His smile faded. Dude, it's not like you're broke. You just made a pile off that sale. Exactly. I finally caught a break after decades of grinding. I'm not handing it off to someone who still thinks help means handing over my keys or my wallet. Kyle crossed his arms. So that's it? You're just done with me? This isn't about being done. It's about being smart. I'm not your safety net. I used to be, and you walked all over it. You think I wanted things to go like this? He snapped. You think I planned to be 30-something and crashing couches? Life hits people different. I didn't get your easy setup. No kids, no ex, steady job. You had it smooth. That got me. I stepped in closer. You think this was easy? You think waking up at 5 a.m. for 30 years, hauling pipe and concrete, coming home sore and broke was easy? He looked away. I earned every damn dollar I've got. You coasted while Mom and Dad covered everything, and you're still waiting for someone to catch you before you fall again. He opened his mouth, but nothing came out. I unlocked the door. You can stay out here and think about it. I've got boxes to unpack. He muttered something under his breath and turned toward his car. Right before he got in, he said, You're cold, Rick. Real cold. I didn't even blink. Nah, I'm just done getting burned. He slammed the door and drove off. I walked back in, locked the deadbolt, and went straight to the boxes stacked in the corner. Ripped one open and started sorting. No guilt, no second thoughts, just peace and cardboard. About a week after Kyle peeled out, I got a text from Dad. We're clearing the guest room for Kyle. 5 minutes later, my mom chimed in. Could you come help make space in the garage for some of his things? I stared at the screen for a second, then typed back, Can't. Busy with the move. Didn't explain, didn't apologize. Just hit send. I knew exactly what was happening. They thought they'd throw out a guilt line and I'd bite. Not this time. Kyle moved into their place like he'd never left. At first, they tried to act like it was temporary. Just until he gets on his feet, Mom said on one call. I said and let her talk. But over the next couple weeks, the cracks started to show. Rick, she sighed one afternoon. He sleeps all day and leaves dirty bowls in the sink, like multiple bowls, every day. I didn't say anything. Last night he had people over at midnight. Your father was furious. He said we're not running a hostel. Still, I just listened. Then she added, "He hasn't offered a dime for groceries." I kept my voice flat. "That's rough." Another call a few days later, this time Dad. "Rick, he's up all night watching TV, says he's between opportunities again. You warned us. I just didn't realize how much he'd coast." "You laid out any rules?" I asked. "We're working on it," he muttered. Then something shifted. One afternoon, Dad called again. "Kyle's got an interview. Real job, downtown, marketing firm. He's wearing a suit." "No kidding," I said. "Yeah," Dad chuckled. "He looks like he borrowed clothes from a grown man." 2 days later, another update. Interview went well. They want a second round. Mom texted, "He shaved, and he used cologne. Haven't seen that bottle in years." Apparently, that's what it took to wake him up. Real expectations, real deadlines, and parents who finally stopped sugarcoating everything. A week after that, Dad told me they laid down house rules. Rent due monthly, chores assigned, curfew set. Kyle didn't love it. "He pouted," Mom said. "Can you believe that? Like we were being unfair." But he didn't leave. He stayed, and I stayed out of it. I didn't offer help, didn't check in, didn't ask how things were going. I had my own life now. Smaller space, steady work, no drama. Every time the phone rang, I waited. Sometimes I picked up, sometimes I didn't. But one thing was clear, the tide was turning. A week after that last call, Dad sent a text with just 2 words. He's hired. Kyle got the job, entry-level marketing at some firm downtown. Probably the first position he'd ever earned without someone pulling strings. I sent him a quick message. "Congrats, proud of you." No emoji, no lecture, just that. He replied with a thumbs up. That was it. But that small response said more than a 10-minute speech ever would have. A month later, I showed up to Sunday dinner, and Kyle was already there, early and holding a box of store-bought cheesecake. "Dessert," he said, setting it on the counter. "Hope nobody's lactose intolerant." He even helped set the table. No hoodie, no backwards cap. He actually looked like someone you could trust with keys to something. Dinner was quieter than usual. No tension, no side eyes. My mom kept looking at both of us like we'd just come back from war. Halfway through the meal, she stood up and came over to hug me from behind. "We pushed too hard on you for too long," she said. I didn't gloat, didn't rub anything in. "Glad he's figuring it out," I told her. She squeezed my shoulder and sat back down. Kyle didn't say much during dinner, but he didn't have to. He listened, didn't check his phone once. Even asked my dad how retirement planning was going. That was a first. 2 months later, I got another message from him. "Moving into a studio near the train station. Place is small, but it's mine. You around Saturday?" I showed up with a folding chair and a 6-pack. He was already halfway moved in. Futon, little IKEA table, mini fridge humming in the corner. "Where's the rest of it?" I asked. He laughed. "This is the rest." We cracked open a couple beers and sat by the window. "You did all this solo?" I asked. He nodded. "First time I've paid a deposit with my own money. Felt weird. Felt good." I tipped my beer toward him. "Proud of you." He didn't look at me right away, just stared out the window. Then he said, "Thanks for not letting me take the easy way again." I didn't say anything back. Didn't need to. We sat there for maybe an hour, no agenda, no awkward silences. Just 2 guys who finally understood something about each other. We weren't best friends now. Still had different lives, different rhythms. But the resentment was gone. And in its place, finally, was respect. After helping Kyle move in, I went back to my place and finally exhaled. No yard, no leaky pipes, no busted appliances waiting to ruin my week. Just 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom, and peace. I kept my job steady, couple remodel projects and enough side work to keep things comfortable. My bills were low, and for the first time in years, I had breathing room. The money from the house sale didn't sit in checking long. I met with a guy downtown, moved most of it into a low-risk fund, and paid off my truck the next day. No more monthly payments, no more juggling. Weekends felt like mine again. I'd hit the flea market, watch a game, or just sit out on the balcony with a cold one and not think about patching a roof. Kyle surprised me one afternoon with a text. "What's a good starter IRA?" I had to read it twice. Next time we were both at my parents' house, he cornered Dad in the garage and asked him about mutual funds. Dad actually looked over at me like he didn't believe it either. Kyle even called me a week later asking if I had a spreadsheet template for tracking expenses. I sent him one. Nothing fancy, just clean columns, basic math. He didn't ask for money, didn't hint around it either. That mattered. I kept my distance, not in a cold way, just clear. No favors, no creeping back into old patterns. He got that. And for once, he respected the boundary. Dinner with the family felt different now, calmer, more equal. Kyle held his own, paid for takeout one night without anyone asking. Then one Saturday, I was having coffee with Dad out back, just the two of us. He sipped his black and stared at the fence line for a second. Then he said, "You did more for him by saying no than we did by saying yes." I didn't say anything at first. Then I just nodded. That one hit harder than I expected. Not because I needed the credit, but because he finally got it. 6 months later, I closed on a 2-bedroom ranch about 15 minutes west of where I'd been renting. Brick, solid roof, working furnace, clean crawl space. Not flashy, not a fixer, just right. The backyard was small but manageable. Enough space for a grill, a folding table, and a couple lawn chairs. That's all I needed. I stood in the empty kitchen on move-in day, cracked a beer, and sent out a group text. Closed on the new place. BBQ soon. Kyle, bring that bean dip you bragged about. He replied 5 minutes later. Only if I don't have to live there. First time in a long time he made me laugh out loud. Felt like progress. That weekend my folks stopped by with a toolbox. It was Dad's old Craftsman, cleaned up, polished, wrapped in newspaper. Housewarming gift, he said. No lectures, no strings. Mom just smiled and said, "We're proud of both of you." They didn't stay long, didn't hover, just dropped it off, hugged me, and headed out. I spent the rest of the afternoon setting up the grill and unpacking the last of my boxes. No rush, no pressure. That night, I sat on the back patio with a cold beer and the porch light humming over my shoulder. No noise but a couple of cicadas and a dog barking 2 streets over. The air smelled like cut grass and charcoal. And for the first time in a damn long while, I didn't feel like I was missing anything. No phone blowing up, no guilt trip, no second guessing. Took me nearly 10 years to get here. But I finally had it. Not just a house, a life. One where I called the shots, boundaries set, family intact, no freeloaders, no regrets.